'Cause I think it's really neat what you're doing and how you're making fashion like inclusive. But I have to ask, like, why? You know, like what, like where did the idea come from? Like, do you have a disability yourself? Do you know someone with a disability? Like, what inspired you to go this direction out of all the directions you could have went in the fashion world? What made you pick this path?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I myself don't identify as having a disability. And so for that reason, it's so important to me that we're constantly working with individuals from the community to make sure that there is a disability presence in everything that we do. I want it to be known that I'm never trying to assume the needs or of anyone or
Yeah.
appropriating anything. So it very much is a community built product. And when I was in my final year of school, I had to do my research capstone, and I knew I wanted to do something that was involving a community that's largely overlooked when it comes to fashion. And so I sort of just started thinking more about disability communities, like we were saying, just constantly overlooked in this particular area. And I was window shopping, something I love to do, and I came across this beaded jacket, believe it or not. And something happened. Also, I love beads. Full disclosure, anything beaded or sparkly, I kind of just run to, whether or not I'm wearing it. I just so driven. I love the tactile nature. But I took a look at this and I kind of just had this aha moment. And I imagined all those beads sort of rearranging to be different phrases in Braille. The bead size was just so similar to Braille. I questioned, why couldn't this piece be beautiful but also functional? Imagine that all of this beadwork was fully legible and could describe the outfit, or it could completely empower someone and allow them to choose garments from their closet. And so I just started getting all these ideas, went home, did a ton of research. Nothing even remotely closely existed at the time. And while I was doing all that research, there was almost nothing that came up about the disability community in the context of being fashion consumers. So I was like, okay, right then and there, I was like, this is a huge problem. How is there no research that exists on this? So I made a quick prototype of what I imagined Braille fashion could be and started reaching out to different individuals locally who identified as visually impaired or who could read Braille. And I showed them the prototype. We kind of discussed the legibility, placement, etc. But then furthermore, we started talking about different challenges that they'd experienced in fashion in the past. So everything from how to actually organize your closet to how do you choose what to wear? Are fashion trends important to you? How does that process work? All the way to the misconceptions of what it means to look and feel blind, because there are the huge stereotypes of what disability means and what blindness or visual impairment means. Meanwhile, during these co-design processes, I've met so many people who love to wear high heels, even if they have a guide dog in one hand or a white cane in the other, or those who still love fashion, even though they can't necessarily see some of these patterns, or there are certain contrasts that just don't work. So it's really interesting to kind of delve into that world and know that there's this community that's been completely overlooked and underserved, and trying to find ways together that we can improve those experiences.
Yeah, I love that.
It was just born. It wasn't something that I had planned to have happen. It was kind of this aha moment, and now it's become my strongest passion in life. So it was really interesting the way that it all came together.
Yeah, some of the best ideas just happen like that, you know? So you got to ride the waves when they come, you know? You have a good idea. A good idea is a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to business, you know? And, like, you see, like, and I hate to think of things like that because sometimes it feels, like, kind of gross when you're like, there's a place in the market for the idea I have, you know, and then you try to execute it. But, I mean, it's just what comes with. I mean, I'm even like that with this podcast. You know what I mean? I kind of noticed the same thing. I was like, oh, there's not many podcasts out there that are around, you know, the disability community. And if they do exist, they're like very specific to a specific disability. Like you know, there might be a podcast just on, for what example, the eye disease I have. I have retinitis pigmentosa, or there might be a podcast specifically on, like, let's say, you know, some sort of muscular dystrophy or something like that. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll have a podcast covering everything, you know? So it's I don't know where I was going with that, but I do love what you're doing.
Thank you. How you were kind of saying, like, ideas evolving into businesses, or like maybe having like that inauthenticity, knowing that it could kind of be marketed afterwards. But That's one thing that I think I enjoyed so much about this process. It was never the intention to form a business. It was kind of just something that happened naturally while we were going through all these discussions. Everyone that I was working with was kind of just like, so now how can I get one of these things? How can I implement this into my wardrobe? And I was like, oh, well, like it doesn't exist. It's a research project. Like maybe I'll do my master's and like I can keep evolving this idea. And they're like, wait, what? Like we've got something here. And it was just so cool to see how proud and enthusiastic different participants were, even having just been exposed to the concept for maybe 1 or 2 sessions. And so it's kind of that driving force that led us to actually becoming a business. I joined an incubator, was kind of just like, hi, have this research and all this like amazing support. Now what do I do? And then we're here a year and a half later. So it's really cool to kind of see how that did evolve. And it was evolving purely out of need. It was never something that was like, hey, I can make a bunch of money off of this, but rather this actually has a lot of great potential and can just help the world socially.